Mm.
I am so excited as usual to be interviewing two of my all-time favorite power couples in the entire universe, Robert and Mary Cromeans. And if you don't know it already, of course, we have Mary Cromeans, who's the global educator, global, not just United States, but global educator for John Paul Mitchell Systems. And Robert has always been the global artistic director, but I love the fact that you're also the business director for JPMS as well too. And the fact that you always say you're a proud hairdresser, and I know you are too, Mary, and of your Robert Cromeans salons, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I am dying to hear what you're doing to navigate not only the world's challenges that's happening and as you see it, but also to hear how are you navigating the California challenges, because I know you're based out of California as well too. So I'd love to hear, ladies first, I want to hear from Mary and hear what you have to say when it comes to that. And then Robert, thank you.
Oh my gosh, you are so sweet. And that is very intense to kick off with me. Oh my gosh, we just work at it every single day. And it's so broad on the stuff that we can talk about. So I'm not going to get into all of the details right here at the top because it'll be one very long run-on sentence. But literally just every single day working on little bits to make these tiny changes to keep our business alive and thriving. And, we have to do better than surviving. So it's just every single day, little bits here, little bits there, and really making sure inside the salon that we always remember it's about an exceptional salon experience for every guest every time. So even though there's so much big picture stuff, we have to remember the guest in our chair. And so that kind of is my focus when I get wild and crazy and my mind is like, oh my God, so much stuff is happening. Where do we go? I just kind of bring it always back down to the guest inside the chair, in my salon and in my chair.
Yeah. That's everything right there. And the fact that you just keep the mission and the vision the same. It's like, okay, wait, how is this going to affect our guest? Whatever decision we make is going to affect our guest. And that's everything. And, a lot of people aren't looking at that right now, Mary and Robert, and they're just looking at like what's in it for me or what's in it for my team, but they're not considering the guest. Like, wait a minute, how do you think your guest feels here? And the fact that you're doing little bits every single day, I think it's so important. And I want to jump back into the little bits here as well too. But Robert, I want to hear from you. What are you doing to navigate our challenges that are happening in our world? There's a list.
Well, it's kind of like there's a big trend right now. Miley Cyrus released a song based on her ex-husband. It's super clever, a big hit record. You draw on your experiences. So as teachers, this is actually, in a way, there's a silver lining to this playbook, that we're learning things and dealing with things that perhaps Robert Cromeans never dealt with in the past. So from recruitment, this has been a new phase. Used to be people see me on stage, I'm coming to work for you. Now we're doing it kind of like most salons. We're more like people than we ever were. So we're recruiting and we're training people. I actually know all of my staff's name for a change. So when you really get down to what's changed, we're fighting for every inch we get. We've had a major hit by COVID that's sort of brought down the confidence. We lost lots of employees. Every time we closed and reopened, we lost people. I always like to remind people they didn't die, but the reality is we've had to regroup. We have a lot of young people in our company right now. To me, the young people of the salon are the energy, they're the batteries. So you'll see them running around TikTok and doing stuff, having fun, having great conversation. I love that they're part of the organization right now. And again, we've also got veterans that have been there 30 years. When we suggest change right now, they usually go for it right away. Used to be in the old days, I tell them what to do. They deny me, they deny me, they deny me. Now they're like, we've made so many changes, Robert, we're prepared to make another one. So we use a thing called Salon Scale. We're actually test marketing right now an at-home color service in our salon that we're testing for Paul Mitchell, giving people the ability to take toners home with them. This is things I would never have done during COVID. So we're really taking things every day, as Mary pointed out, but really understanding that my job has always been to trick people into doing the things they don't want to do. And just a little simple example, Mary come home and she runs a lot of the business now. I'm just the guy who wears the hat. And we're having resistance on people clocking in and clocking out. Now, first of all, they're not doing it out of spite. They're not doing it to drive my wife crazy, but they're just not thinking about it in the moment. They're leaving. So I've got this beautiful inside chamber called the galley, and there's two swivel doors. So I just put on one swivel door to the inside, to the team only, clock in, and then on the other door, clock out. And it is absolutely changed. Everybody's running to clock in and clock out. So it's always been about the challenges that is getting the people aligned. Mary talked about the customer guest, getting them is easier than keeping them. So you can be awesome the first day. You're feeling in a good mood. You paid all your bills. You got your first time guest and you're giving her magic. And what really happens to the industry, and as always happened, after 4 to 5 visits, they lose confidence. So if you got lucky enough in November to have 50 new guests, how many of those did you keep? And if your answer is 55 of them, I'm like, well, Jesus loves you. You're in great shape. The problem in the industry is 1 in 10 is usually the stick power. So now more than ever, you've got to be convincing the client that they're in the right place, give an exceptional service, not one time, but every single time. And I think this is a kind of magic to the industry. So, helping these young kids understand the data points, the numbers we come from. I think a lot of them knew when they came, it'd be a fun job. They'd learn a lot, but they don't realize that I don't deal with emotion. I deal with numbers and performance. So I think that's a big kind of characteristic that they're starting to learn and catch on to, whether they're getting Yelp reviews or Google reviews. It's just amazing to watch people succeed. And we have so many young people having victories every day. It gives me a little confidence in the future. The other thing I want to bring up, Tina, that is absolutely happening around the world, the cost of foil has doubled. The cost of gloves has doubled. What are we doing to raise our prices without doing it out of, well, you're worth it, like L'Oreal say, helping you understand that the reason we're charging more is the cost of doing business has risen. So I just did a seminar called Away with Stephen Moody, who did a collection with Colin. And to me, I said, well, the most important thing is, how do you communicate it? How do you unapologetically communicate to your clients you're having an increase? And this was something that I think was profound. I just traveled through Europe. We had a 4 or 5 week tour. This is all I got to talk about because everybody in the world is going through this crush. It's not a USA only, kind of like COVID. It wasn't just happening in the US.
Or just California.
The labor costs have went up, especially in California. Minimum wages went up to $16 an hour. So we are looking at how do we adjust our business without going too far that the client doesn't appreciate it? How do we up the service? Nobody's ever told me in all the years I've been doing hair, Tina, you cost too much. What they really told me, if they said that, I gave too little. So we got to roll up our sleeves and push harder than ever before, get your back into the shampoo. I call it the Super Bowl now. If you're not claiming every indicator that can come from the sink, from the experience to the referral, to the gratuity, to the upsell towards treatment, scalp care, these are all the things I'm looking at. So it's really back to baseball, hitting the ball, catching the ball, throwing the ball. I have known these principles for life. I've made tapes in the early days called The Art of Making Money. And I would say, apart from a few name changes, everything I talked about 30 years ago is still as relevant today as it was 30 years ago. This game has not changed as long as we're in the customer satisfaction business. So it's a beautiful kind of energy that we get to share. We are learning more than we have for many years. For maybe 15, 20 years, I was able to just roll on what I had discovered. But we've been forced to come up with new situations, new systems. Technology runs through our company like never before. We now have every client's credit card. That never happened in the old days, Tina. You couldn't steal it out their hand. So now people are used to self-checkout. We have technology that's doing inventory for us. Everything is, the use of technology in our industry is what dramatically changes it. The discovery we had years ago, we started using Millennium and technology like that, the data it gave us. And I'd say now more than ever that the business has changed quite dramatically. And again, look at every customer's behavior. They are leaving their credit card on many businesses. They have a running account on Amazon. So people aren't as worried as they used to be. And I think this is a big game changer. And there's nothing more pleasurable when the client just says, just leave it on my card. You're like, wow, that's just what trust. And again, it has to be earned. It doesn't come because we've been around for a while. Our clients, especially through COVID, we really put more attention to our clientele than ever before. And I think they trust us. People that left us years ago, their clients are coming back to us. So we're really in a growing stage, but really trying to pick up to where we left off during COVID. A year closure was something I never expected in my whole lifetime. So to have to deal with that every single time has been something that's changed the confidence of the client. It's changed the workload of how people work. When I was a young hairdresser, 60, 70 hours a week was not uncommon. I met my wife in my own company. She used to work 60, 65 hours a week,
Just open to close every day.
open to close every single day. And
Clocking in or out. That didn't exist. It wasn't an employee thing. You
now
didn't have to
kids
do
and
it.
whatever title you want to put on them, and it's not just the millennials, it's not the Z, it's everybody is working slightly part-time. So now I can help them be more dangerous on a part-time level. I'm very proud of working mothers in my business. I'd like to recruit more of them because they are passionate about it when they're there. And there's no drama when they go home, it's all over with. And I'm just saying, these are the things we're looking at that are quite big changes in my mentality. I used to hear somebody was having a baby out over there, goes their career. And now I'm like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. I want to go to, I want to hit working mothers all around the world because I think they have a lot to offer. And if you play in a dangerous way, in a 2-day work week, you can actually make as many dollars as somebody would in a week. My wife's great testimony to this. One of our stylists, Rachel, she's, how many days she's working?
2
days a week.
like 6-hour days.
And just killing it every minute, never a space on her book and having the best joy, and then gets to go home and be with her children. That's something that I would say that has really surprised me. But again, back to the original statement, 24 hours, 26 hours, 30 hours maximum is all people are prepared to work. And that is hugely significant, especially if you're training people. If Mary was in the salon 60 hours a week, she was learning a lot of stuff. At 30 hours, it's taken me twice as long to get them prepared to be dealing with clients. We have a combination of rising stars, which is assistant power. But the minute they can find a guest, we're encouraging that. We're not waiting till they're trained. The best way to learn doing hair is doing hair on people, especially the COVID generation that got to do it in a non-practical way. So to me, if some stylist comes in and I hire them, yeah, you'll be training, you'll be assisting, but as soon as you've got a client, you've found Tina Black, she wants to come in for a highlight, we're letting them get into that right away. So we have something more measurable that we can coach them from. And I would just say that somehow in school, whether it's ours or any school, they missed the chapter on picking up strangers and bringing in a clientele. And they think the TikTok or the internet's going to do it all. It's not going to do it all. Word of mouth is one of the best. So until you have a population of clients, you won't get word of mouth. And the reality is, since then, you have to talk to strangers, tell people, you know, how cute their babies are, even if they're not, you know, compliment every little doggy you see, but you've got to exchange words in Starbucks and supermarkets and Nordstrom's. You got to get used to putting yourself out there, even if you're shy. I would say as a young kid going through beauty school, I was not the wordy Robert Cromeans you've seen today. That's pretty inward, but I'm just saying you got to push it out there, whatever you're after. And I think this is what we're trying to teach and encourage our young team to understand, that there is potential. I have a stylist that works for me that picked up the Uber driver for a service. And I thought that is something, if you can pick up an Uber driver, they're usually picking you up. So I'm just saying, to me, that shows me the type of skills that you need to build a future clientele. And that never goes away. We are the best hairdressers we ever are on a new client at any experience level. When I see a new client on my column, I'm very excited to see how this is going to work out. So are they. So I just think we grow a lot with new client experiences. And I think that's a big part of it. So you've got to roll up your sleeves a little bit and get out there and put yourself out there. And I think this is something that we're working with constantly, whether it's a model for a demonstration or a hands-on experience, or just getting a paying client in there. So it makes a big difference of how we're looking at building our future talent.
Huge. So I want to hit on that first, because that's been something heavy on our hearts. But first of all, I love that you said that you trick people into doing the things they don't want to do. And that's what a leader does, right? Because you're the one who has to persuade change and get people excited about change. And I notice many times if a leader's not excited about change, the team won't be either. And so that's everything. And can you touch on that just for a second? I'd love to hear from you, Robert, and also Mary. You know, how do you elicit change in your company? Because you guys are the mentors in this. You're the leading stars when it comes to this. You've been showing salons across the nation that you have to change. And so can you talk about, on a leadership standpoint, how you are able to do that first and foremost?
Go ahead, my love.
I
told you he's a better morning person than me. He gets all done.
Well, it's kind of funny. I think that even though I'm Robert Cromeans, there's people who work for me that really don't know who I am and what I do for a living. So when I started talking numbers to one of the stylists, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So I just think that this industry's always been about change, whether you lost a few stylists, whether you've lost a few clients, it's constant, never ending change. So for me, being in the building more, because I'm not traveling as much as I used to, not just because of COVID, I've traveled everywhere. I've got 7 million miles under my belt. So I'm not looking for every little show, every single place. I get to do some of the best shows in the world, but I'm not traveling the way I did 15, 20, even 10 years ago. So the reality is I got more time to spend. I'm in the building creating magic. I'm coaching them, I'm giving them high fives. I'm doing personal classes with them, which should cost them $1,000. And they just take it for granted that they're getting trained by, you know, the guy that owns the salon. And it's really kind of, it's really kind of funny. So when they see me do presentations or different things, they're really quite shocked by it. But again, I'm kind of quiet by nature. I just, sometimes somebody's dumb enough to give me a microphone and then I'm not so quiet. Or I get a crowd of people that give me energy. So the building that we're doing right now with the team is critical. Obviously, we work closely with the Paul Mitchell School. And, you know, I would say the first thing I ask anybody coming in the door, how many clients are you going to bring in? They pause, stutter, and stammer there because of all the training they've had. Nobody's ever asked them that question, because no matter what you've done in school, eventually you're going to have to do it. And the idea is to build a clientele. So to me, I'm prepared as an owner to do half the work if they do the other half. I think our team is very trusting right now. And I think it's because of the adversity we've been through and that they've been through. So they kind of have a lot more confidence in Mary and I. She is the top earner in the salon by double. So everybody respects her as the coach, and most importantly, the powerful example, because a lot of times people are telling people to do stuff, but they don't do it themselves. So I think it's a beautiful sort of sense of being. But I would just say that the training is very different from what we used to do. We used to just exhaust them on working hard, and the little nails would pop up by shampooing and doing all these things. But now we're kind of working at a different pace. It's a little slower, but a little more meaningful. So we're not trying to rush it through. If I hire a future professional today, the outcome I'm looking for is a successful stylist behind the chair. And that's what we got to think about every single day. And, you know, when you start this job, you think, I'm just going to tell them this. Telling doesn't make people get it. That we're not computers, we're not hard drives. You can't jump it into my brain. You got to take it in baby steps. And that's something's hard for people like us that have been doing and training for all these years. But I'm just saying, for me, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the journey, and I'm enjoying the results of the journey, watching people succeed. And again, also having the courage as owners to let people go that don't fit the culture. Perhaps after COVID, I was a little desperate. We had a little government money, PPP. Woohoo, are you down with PPP? So I could afford to hire a dozen at a time to put them through the works. But I'm just saying, we're kind of going back to old school. I know you want to work here. First, you're going to come in for an interview. Then you're going to hang out with the team. And then you're going to bring in a model. So I'm putting a few steps and barriers, because everybody thinks they want it. Everybody says they're prepared to do what it takes. But just on those 3 little jumps, I'm going to knock off 70% of the people that probably wouldn't work out for me anyway. So it's not just looking for a pulse, Tina. It's not sticking an ad in your window, help wanted. It's more than that. Again, think of the culture you're building and thinking of the people that have something exceptional and memorable so you can build their career for them. And we have some very young talent right now that we're super passionate and positive about, that I know are eventually going to be very successful hairdressers, just like Mary, if they do the right things when they should. So that discipline of learning is a big part. Resistance to classes and education is overwhelming. And then we have this little thing in my pocket called my computer, my iPhone. And to get people even to watch a video, you know, they're on TikTok all day watching every groovy dance. But the reality of the resistance in that, so we're trying to really understand the value of technology. You can educate yourself 24/7. You can home play, as we call it in the school culture. There's so much information available to young stylists today that was never around in my generation. I was lucky enough as a young man to work with Paul Mitchell. I was lucky enough as a young man to sit in Vidal Sassoon's audience. These are all things that changed my life forever. It wasn't available on DVD or Blu-ray. So I'm just saying my experience really came from the world of traveling around shows. Nowadays, people can accelerate what they're learning and inspired by hairdressers all over the world in different countries, people you probably never meet. I have some fan favorites that I look for on the internet that inspire me, that I share with the team. So I often use my Instagram account to share with the team things that rock my mind, or things that I think would rock their mind. It could be the way somebody cuts hair. It could be the way they present color. It could be any idea that I find on the internet, because I'm always scrolling and I'm always looking. And I'm thinking, in my mind, is getting better and better at my age, which is unusual because I'm looking at all these incredible things around the world. And I just want to get more and more people engaged in self-learning and self-discipline so that they can kind of learn as much as they can, because they're not going to do it through hours served. You know, if you're on a plane with a pilot, you want to know how many man hours has he flown, or women. And nowadays, I'm just saying, hairdressers are not getting the same man hours. The pace has shifted slightly. We used to double book. Everybody talks about that. I double book because I'm not making enough money. You're not making enough money because you are double booking. Mary does one client at a time. And in that performance, she has an average ticket of $330. So if I think about it logically, and you're lazy like me, all I need is 3 guests, Tina, and I've had $1,000 day. You can't really do better than that. Whereas before, we put a color on, we took a color off, we quickly shampoo, we forgot her name, we forgot to do sell take home, we forgot to rebook the visit. The busier we get, sometimes the sloppier we get. We get a little stupid. So I'm just saying, by slowing down the mechanism, you may see that you can focus on one guest at a time. We call it in our seminars, fewer guests, more meaning. And when you get that formula of a great treatment, now we have scalp care. So we have the tea tree kombucha detox. By adding another service, so I now have a choice of 4. I've got the detox scalp care, I've got the treatment, I've got the haircut, I got the color. I got all your dollars, lady. I'm getting them all. And I'm just saying, the more time a client spends in our store, the more ticket that accumulates. And I just think if we slow down, we can do a better job as a service provider. And I would say the only exception I give to that is for younger stylists. They need more experience, so I want them to have a little bit more pace. We help that happen by a smaller price point. So the volume comes in the industry when you got a small, agreeable price, and we have a rising star price, or new talent. New talent is about $10 below the kind of going rate. And I'm just saying that seems to be the encouragement. We got a call, first time guest. Well, I'd like to go to that first element. They want to go down in that level because the price is right. And that's where the people get the chance to build. But as we work through that journey using vital signs and indicators, we start moving them up to element 1, element 2, element 3, and that begins our career path.
Incredible. Wow. Okay. So I love the mere fact that you're talking about how to trick people into doing things that they don't want to do to elicit that change. And you were just basically saying you got to be very competent as a business leader. And I think that's huge, because you've got to get the training that you need to understand your number so that you can really help people to make that change, and being that powerful example. And that's how you earn that respect. And once you get the respect, you get the trust, right? And then it's like, okay, whatever Robert and Mary say, I need to do. And wow, what a powerful example you are, Mary. $330 for your average ticket. Like, hello, that gives us as a whole nation something to look forward to. What a powerful example that you are to do that. Can you talk about, like, what kind of things did you have to do to change in yourself in order to get to that type of number? And what do you want to tell hairdressers and salon owners that are hairdressers across the nation?
Well, I think the first thing for me is that obviously I started working for Robert before we were ever a couple. So I worked for him for 10 years. So the system that he has had in play and still has in play is that there's coaching that happens, and based on your key performance indicators, you get that increase. So there's always been a manager or leader inside the salon that's like, okay, even if I didn't know that I was doing well, or, I started with him when I was 20. So, sometimes you're doing things because he told you to, and you don't really know that you're doing them good or whatever. But then when they look at your numbers, somebody who knows more than you or can see the numbers in it, and they're like, okay, time for an increase. So, okay, I'm not going to say no to a raise. So I think that is number one, because all day long, and even in our company, not everybody is okay with the raise. They get very fearful about it. So allowing myself to be okay with getting the raise when I've earned it, not being shy to tell my guests about it. I think it helps that I'm from the East Coast. So I'm like, okay, I'll tell people. That's great. It's good news for me, and they should be excited for me. I'm excited for my guests when they get a raise. So this is, it's business. So that was number one, like, not just because I thought, like, I'm not getting a raise because Robert thought, oh, I really like Mary, or, Tony deserves a raise because Tony's cute. It's based off of the numbers. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm in demand and this is working. So I took the raise rather than denying it. So that would be the first thing for hairdressers. I know it's a little bit harder when you have to give yourself a raise. It's we tend to be a little bit more shy about talking about money, but more and more with so many of hairdressers being independent stylists, they have to talk about money up front because they have to set a menu. So they shouldn't be shy about it. And I would recommend not letting your pricing go for 5 years without increasing. You know, I think the normal rate in every industry except ours, because we sort of shy away from it, is yearly. You do an assessment, you do a review, and everything's going in the right direction, you've earned that raise. So take the raise. I think that is number one. So that allowed me to move through the elements. And then I think realizing, and again, understanding, I mean, I really lucked out being exposed to Paul Mitchell as a company, being exposed to a Robert Cromeans salon and choosing to work there. But the best thing is that Robert gives all of his information away. So no matter where you are in the world, you can take on these ideas and these attributes and implement them into your salon. Not everyone has to move to California to be a part of it, right? So just learning that, wow, it's not really about your haircut or your color. And I think people might get, like, the artist inside us might get a little bit like, no, it is like, I have to, I'm practicing this craft, but it's really how you treat people. And it's the relationship that you build with each and every guest. It is a true blue relationship. I see these people more than I see my best friends. Absolutely. I see you every 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. And that is more than I see my best friend who lives across the country. So it's, when I realized that, not to say that I stopped practicing my craft, I'm practicing my craft. They allow me to get better each and every time. Guests are so, if you treat them well and you treat them like a superstar in your chair, and you don't have that ego of like, you're lucky to see me and that you're thrilled to see them, then they're excited to come and see you. They're excited to support you. They're excited when you get a raise. They're excited to tell their friends about you. They're excited to let everybody know that, oh my gosh, Mary does my hair. She gives me the best wash house experience. I love my highlights. Oh, you don't like your blonde hair? You got to go see my girl. So they want to talk about me. The hardest part, I think, during COVID was usually when you have those relationships with your guests, the first person your guest wants to see when shit goes down. Sorry, excuse me.
You're good.
The first person that a guest wants to come and see when things are good, when things are bad, when somebody has a baby, there's, God forbid, a death in the family, or there's a global pandemic, they're like, I want to go see my hairdresser. They need to sit and have that kind of therapy, if you will, where they're having their hair done. You have the power of touch to make them feel better. They look better. Automatically, their confidence is built. They're feeling good. And when that was swiped away, that was like detrimental. And I think, as much as it was terrible and it sucked, the beauty of it was, I think more and more of our guests, more and more of the consumers realized how valuable their hairdresser was for so much more than just their hair.
Yeah, it's everything. I love this so much. And
Yeah.
I want you to talk about salon scale, because I think this has made a big boom in our industry. And we're actually in the process with our schools and our salons talking about it. But again, going back to with the hairdresser change, they're having a difficult time, like, oh, we can't have our clients pick up the labor, or not the labor, but the parts, right? So they're talking about labor and parts. So I'd love to hear it from both of your mouths. Like, how has salon scale worked for you? And how do you get your stylists to buy into that? It's kind of a new way of charging, right? So where the client would pay for the product, right? Instead of it coming off of the gross of the stylist commission.
I would just say, just a disclaimer, I think when I talk about business, I think it's up to your audience to interpret what I say, not to copy. So salon scale to me is the technology we're using. We didn't really approach it that way, but what I will say, it's transparent. So let's just say, I'm not going to make a big deal about the cost, but you realize if you just racked up $60 worth of product, the price on the back end should have some reference to that. So people are aware now of money. I think they used to think JP just shipped me color because he loves me. Mm-hmm. They now realize there's a cost of it. We also have created a hybrid salon in the absence of COVID or since COVID. So we have a few freelancers that are generally people from our culture. So now when they're going to the color bar, we're able to sell that color to them by the ounce. They're not going to beauty supply. So the reality is it's a beautiful visibility, and they're so aware of it that when they rack up a big ticket on just color cost, they know that they got to pass that on to the clients, just like you said, parts and service. So it's a big reality, a game changer from that point of view, but we're not using it exactly like salon scale suggests.
Okay.
So just because we looked at that theory, and I'm just saying, I just love they have visibility. I love that they're doing it. Now, do we get people resisting doing it? on occasion. Let's
We
not.
just need a gentle reminder, but
Yeah.
everybody dove in pretty quickly.
No, some people just value it. And again, for our freelancers, that's how they do business. So we're using Salon Scale, and it makes a big difference. People are aware of the cost. And I think that's something that people didn't have, right down to wastage, Tina. So I usually mix up 4 ounces for Mary. Mary may look like she's got a lot of hair. She doesn't have that much. And the little thing tells me to go to 3 ounces. I don't need 4. So people are a little more understanding of how much they use, how much they really need. In fact, the machine prompts it, said you used too much last time. You don't have to do it. So again, it's one of those technologies that I think make a big difference. Also, people get a little lazy. And I do Tina's hair. She loves it. She loves it. She's getting married. And then you come in next time, give me the same thing. And I'm looking at my formula, and it's from 1982. We're not so good at keeping notes. So I'm just saying this way guarantees that I've got the formula, whether you liked it or hated it, I have something to reference to, just like an Instagram picture or a photo on your iPhone. I think these are all the key characteristics I see in it. And there's other versions. There's Vish. I'm just saying, whatever one you're into, I just say that there's a value from controlling inventory, seeing what we use a lot of. But to me, it becomes a sort of side hustle brain for my stylist, that even though they may forget who the client is and what her name is, when she comes in, they're going to see her formula. It's going to refresh every thought they have in their mind. So I love that as, again, a system that changes behavior.
It only took about 3 days for everybody to, you practice it. You're like, oh God, this takes so long. I have to add the guest in as a new guest, because you get them in the log. But once I've done your hair, then I have your name in there. I can, like Robert said, cross-check the formula. And there's so many great things about it. One of the nice things owner to owner is that when, say that I'm out I called out, and you're going to do my guest hair. Well, when you go to Salon Scale, you have that formula right there. So that number one is amazing. You don't have to go into the computer and look it up. You just go right into Salon Scale. We have the formulation right there. We have the measurements. There's room for notes when you want to do that. So that is hands down the best thing ever. And I'm finding now more and more, I'm not seeing notes in the computer as much, because everyone just has it in Salon Scale. So it's not as necessary to also write it into the computer. And it makes it easier. So like Robert said, for inventory, I can run a report now that tells me exactly how many of the most used colors. So when we're using 6N, 6NN, 6BA, I have, I used 36 tubes this month. Now I know exactly how much to reorder, and if I need to order more, or maybe I don't need to order something as much of. So that makes it really nice too, because you're seeing real time what people are using, rather than, I do, it's hard to do inventory, no matter, inventory is never 100% accurate. I don't know if you feel that way or it's just me. It is never 100% accurate. I do the report, I receive it all, I have the numbers in there, we do employee supply usage, but when I go to count inventory, it's never accurate. I'm like, oh, that said I had -7, but I really had 12 of this product. I'm like, where'd I go wrong? So it really helps to keep things very, very accurate and right down to the littlest detail. And that's really helpful with it. It's very helpful.
I just want to say that we let a young lady go that's probably been with me 20 years, and her response to some of the system changes, she said, at my age, I can't use technology. Ladies and gentlemen,
she's like 42.
At any age, you should look at TikTok. You should go onto these tools and apparatuses. Right now, I'm in love with AI. I'm writing some paragraph or something. I put it through the machine. It looks like Shakespeare wrote it. There's so many technologies we can take advantage of. And I'm just saying, I hear this a lot from the industry on my age level. Oh, I'm too old for that. I'd like to know, this is the age we're in. It's not your age, it's the age we're in. Yeah. So I'm just saying, at any point, we've got to get people exposed to it, even though they may be reluctant at first. I'm just saying, this is not a, if you feel like it, this is a gotta do. And when we get to that point of view, people are using it and they're seeing the benefit and understanding the value of it. So from client records all the way down, as Mary pointed out. So system change isn't always easy, but there's not many excuses I'm prepared to take as an owner. You're either putting yourself in like the hokey pokey or you're not. Makes a big difference.
There are, if I could give like a recommendation, because as Robert said, we started with Salon Scale during, still we were in COVID mode, and we did not increase prices or do any of that. And we were still, okay, we're going to do this. We'll see it and figure it out. And we are actually now, we did not do a price increase since forever. And so we're working on one for March coming up. And I think one of the nice things is, as I'm looking at my salon scale, it does tell you what your average cost per session is. So I think that if you do, one of the things that could be nice for people just starting with it, if you're not ready to go full on and you have to figure out, get the team on board and do all of that stuff, it would be, you could do, a 3-month trial. Let's see, everybody putting all the information in. Let's see what it says. And then you could work because I do agree, it is a little awkward depending on the type of salon you're in to talk to parts and labor, and this is your cost. And it just depends. And everything is going to, everything's different for everybody. You got to do what's good for you. But even right now, so I'm looking at ours says it's about $9 per guest on my average session for my whole salon. That's what our average session costs. Now, do we have yesterday, one of the girls, it was $29.93 on in product that she used. So that was super high. But then sometimes when you're working on somebody and you're only doing lightener, it's like 73 cents. It's nothing, So working on that average, that could help you figure out how you're ready for a price increase. And maybe the better way to do it, if you're hesitant as a salon owner, your team's hesitant, you could do an overall, okay, so maybe we do a $10 price increase for all color services, or, there's something in there that you can do because this is the average and you're seeing what your average is per guest. So yes, maybe somebody may be paying a little more in that $10 and maybe somebody else may be paying a little bit less, but that is a way that you could figure out your pricing without breaking it down into parts and labor, if that doesn't seem like it's a good way for you to go with your guests and your team.
Yeah, I love the parts and labor analogy. I think I first heard it with Terry Cowan. And as much as I love it, you've always got I love somebody that gets on stage and makes these analogies about things, but they don't really relate to some of these people going to get the car service. They don't read the ticket. So as much as it's a big thinking kind of way, I just think it's simpler than that. It's just the way we do things. This is how we do things around here. And I would say, just to talk about my wife for a moment. So COVID changed her dramatically. She used to see maybe 8 guests a day, still with a high ticket average, but she wouldn't eat lunch. She wouldn't go to the bathroom. And, I go pick her up at night and she would chew my arm off because she's so hungry. So since COVID, the first restriction we got from the government was we had to slow the business down. We had an occupancy limitation. So caused by the government, we slowed the machine down. Mary found that when she was going slower, she was more effective. She was more time. When a color was processing, she was rebooking the next appointment, recommending her take home.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
So the downtime became uptime. And now in 3 guests, she's eating lunch. She's taking a wellness break. She's pacing herself. You know that t-shirt I used to make, I run with scissors. Now I walk very slowly, Tina.
I walk with scissors.
Crawling. So for me, the pace is something that we got to understand. Now, for all the people that double book, no judgment here, but I'm just saying everybody's got their own way of doing it. So for some people, pace may be the way they want to play the game. For others, as you get to a maturity in the industry, I promise you, by slowing down the machine, you'll get better shampoos, better customer service. The worst retailers in the world are usually the busiest stylists because they never have time. And one thing that can help you prevent that is talk about it up front, not at the end. It's not the end of the story, it's the beginning. Tina, describe to me the condition of your scalp. It's dry, it's flaky. Describe to me condition of your hair. It starts with a perfect consultation. So during this slower process, we're able to sit down with each and every guest and give them that viewpoint. And as a result, her revenues are bigger than before the COVID hit. And she's killing it on every level. So I think there's something to it. But if your enjoyment is the hustle and bustle and multitasking and all that, go for it. I don't really color hair that much. So I just cut hair back to back to back, 3, and I'm done. I'm going home for a nap. It's just find the pace that works for you is my advice here. Don't do it because we've always done it that way. Find what works for you and your clientele, because some people, I have a young stylist that works for me, a Paul Mitchell graduate for sure. When I had her on hourly pay, I used to think, my God, this girl is so slow. She has such long consultations, everything. Now she's a freelancer in my business, and I don't care how long she takes, and she has the most loyal clientele, never has a space. Who am I to judge that you're taking too much time? So time is different for every person. Some people may feel the benefit because I took so much time with their haircut. So I'm not here to tell you there is one pace fits all. It's just not the way it works. You've got to figure out what works for you. As a younger stylist, I recommend a little bit of pace because it's more practice. Your hands get used to it. You get better and better. You've got muscle memory. But as you mature to the kind of level where you've got a clientele, you're getting referrals, Find the pace that makes you perfect, not crazy. I seen a little thing on the internet this morning. The average hairdresser, when they go home, they sit in their car outside the house for 30 minutes just to decompose that day they had. And I'm just saying, let's find the balance. That's what COVID really taught us. There is a balance between your work life, and there's a point to where people do too much and then they start to resent clients. You know, I do freestyle blow dryers from the ceiling. I think most people think it's there so I don't choke a client. But there are times when I was a young hairdresser doing 16 guests a day, but those last 3, I mean, it was a grind. It was not the highest quality service Robert Cromeans can give. So find the balance, and that may change as you mature. It may change as you go through your career, but find what's perfect for you. It's like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. This one's just right. And I think that makes a big difference. You didn't know I'd get a 3 bears analogy.
I love that. I love that. I've been watching Paddington Bear lately. So it's pretty
I don't
awesome.
think Mary even knows who that is.
Paddington Bear is. I don't watch it though.
It's super cute. You have to watch it. Yeah, for
It
sure.
used to be on every night in the UK, 5 minutes before the news. So they kind of softened the news with showing you Paddington Bear.
Cute.
That
But
is so
yeah,
funny.
and some more movies. But
Cute
anyway.
movie. Cute movie. I'm a grandma now, so I'm giving
I
up
was
my
just
grandma
gonna say.
area. So I love the career path option that you have going on, because I think this is the biggest challenge. So as we end out this podcast, man, I got to get you guys back in right away. There's so much information here that I want to unpack, but the biggest challenge I see when we're coaching salons is they have a non-existent career path. And what you said earlier, Robert, was making sure that the students out of school can take clients right away. Because we've noticed that if we have them go too long, they lose all their confidence. And now we have to start over as if they're back in school again with them. And so it's like, no, we got to get them, on the floor ASAP. I'd love for you to kind of talk about that. And then the fact that you have a hybrid situation going on in your salon. So it has to have some sort of career path. Like what we do is we partner with our stylists. So we're opening our 4th location. And so we give them the opportunity to own a salon with us, right? And so the hybrid, and you're doing freelancers. Talk about that, because we have a lot of salons that want to do that. How do they make that shift and that change?
Well, the first thing I want to address is the language. I love the word freelance. I think one of my coaches talks about solopreneur.
Yeah.
Nice word. It goes with entrepreneur. So I'm just saying, I hate one particular word. I'm not even going to mention it, but I'll see it in a window. I see people saying it. And when I hear people from stage using it, I feel so disrespectful, such an ugly word. And the truth is, there's exceptional businesses that are working in a freelance world: Salon Republic, Butterfly Loft, Sola Suites. It's up to you. Do you want to be part of a team, or do you want to be an interesting person in your own room, locked in a room with a crazy person? My wife likes to be with the crew. We like the energy of the crew. I don't want to be alone. And again, it's your choice. Again, it's not a judgment, but I would just say there's so many great models to look at. The hybrid version is, for me, I've lost more staff over money because I'm in a high-end location. I can't pay 60, 70%. I don't own the building. So there's a limit to how much I can give you. But in this 5th or 6th step of my career path, now there's an opportunity. I have a crazy dream, Tina. I want to build a salon that people want to pay me to work in.
Exactly.
So I've got color by the ounce. I've got a maid. I've got space. You can use multiple chairs. I've got it. And we also do it by the day, by a half day, by the week, whichever way you want to have it. I am the most flexible guy ever. And the one thing that I think is really kind of nice, if we had a young person interview the other day, I walked around, my daughter Monahan had sent this young lady from the school. So I take that as a big compliment for the young lady herself. And I walked around and I told her the story about freelancers. I said, but I want you to look around the room and tell me who they are. She said, I have no idea. So you wouldn't know the difference. How we're paid has never been our differential. So I think that's a key point to understand. So instead of losing your top stylist because eventually they get up to a point where the only way I'm going to make more money is being my own boss, why don't you make an exception and bring in this new realm? If I had done this 10 years ago, I would have probably 30 staff more. 30 employees more, not employees, freelancers, because I would lose over money on $200,000-$300,000 earners. And I couldn't make up the difference. And the last one that left me, she said, for my family, I have to do this. I couldn't argue with that, Tina.
Yeah.
because she's not making the biggest part of the proportion. So having this sixth element, if you will, to me gives me the freedom. At least if somebody leaves my company, it's because they hate it or don't like it there, but never over money. And I meet these people years later at shows and seminars. They still want a picture of me. They still want a hug. They want to know if I've forgiven them. But when I look at it, it's just because I was so stuck in my ways. This is the way we play. This is the team. And when it comes to that level, people moved on. And I'm just saying, it's heartbreaking when you look at it as a business owner, what you could have done to prevent it. Some of it was legality in
I
California.
was just going to say, let's not forget, we did do it. And then California labor law came up with something that said you could not, it's illegal to have an employee and a freelancer independent contractor working under the same roof.
Right.
So then we had to change back, which caused us to lose people because obviously once you're a freelancer and then you have to go back to being an employee as the way you're paid is a little bit hard to take. Understandable. And then when we were about to, it's not without, a little bit of struggle. So then we're like, okay, we're going to have everybody be freelance because that's the reason people leave. So we're setting people up. We're getting everything going. We're like, okay, starting January 1st, was it 2021? Maybe it was 2022, 2021. We're like, everyone's going to go freelance. I was crying because I don't want to pay my taxes separately. I like it to take it out automatically. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Anyway, I was having a pity party for myself. Contact the labor law attorney. And he's like, no, actually they switched the law back. You can do it. You can have a hybrid salon.
Okay.
Which was good, but we went through all the work of
Yeah.
getting everyone prepared. And so you do have to take into consideration the state you live in, what the labor laws are. Can you have an employee and an independent contractor working under the same roof? And how can you navigate that? So I would always say to make sure you touch base with a labor attorney in your state.
But let's bring that up. So I get my team, we're going all the way. Then we got government news, we could split it and you could have a choice. So then I gave them the choice. And I was expecting all the
Everybody
employees
except me.
to come
Yeah.
in like a wrecking ball, go Miley, like a wrecking ball and say, I'm going to go freelance.
Right.
60% of our people did not.
No, 4 people did it.
Only 4 people in our team did it. The other thing that was exceptionally something I noticed, if I told you, Tina, you got to work every day, you'd say, no, you're off your rocker.
Right.
I would have freelance partners that were in the building sometimes 6 days a week because we give you a key, you got full access, whatever your rate that you've decided on.
They work all the time now.
So a client's when you call up, you want your hair color, they're calling the stylist. The stylist says, I'll come in on Sunday, do it. I'll do it on Monday. Now, they weren't there big days, but they were there on little days more often, taking care of their clients' needs. But if I told them before, because they want a 3-day work week, there's a word used in the industry all the time called flexibility. We think we're being flexible when I say, what days do you want to work? That's not how they understand that meaning. It's having the freedom. They want flexibility on price. So you'll think, well, they want to charge more. Actually, they want the flexibility to perhaps go down sometimes and go up. So I'm just saying, this is what you're learning from the freelance industry. One thing I've always been proud of, I work for big chain salons. I work for independents. I work for these solo suites. I work for everybody in the business. And because of that, it makes me the best coach in the world because I'm dealing with every dynamic there is, not just my own business, what we do every day. And I'm just saying, this surprised me. So these are the things we're looking at is the freedoms hairdressers are wanting. Again, Mary talked about it earlier. The transparency on the beauty industry right now is so wide that they're seeing Instagrammers talking about the career, talking about tickets. They're a little bit more heightened awareness than they used to be. Used to be they come to Robert Cromeans Salon because they're going to use my reputation to build their client. Now they're quite capable of building their own reputation. So they don't see as much value for the big salons that used to do it all. Somebody said, well, I'm going to train you. And I think that makes a big difference. But I would say at the end of the day, if you're really smart, you could get a college degree with just using your phone and hitting, YouTube. You wouldn't have to really go through traditional schools. Elon Musk talks about this all the time. So I think there's a real paradox in the industry that we have to deal with and not put our heads in the sand and think, well, this is just the way we do it. You've got to rip it up sometimes and start over. Systems are designed to a certain point. They have a certain shelf life. Some last forever, but oftentimes you got to relook at the systems of it and the behaviors that we're getting. And I'm quite happy to move forward with a freelance opportunity where we build somebody in through the career path and they stay with me for life. That is a beautiful outcome of the business. And I think that's one of the big sort of change of mind I've had as a hair owner and, making big differences every single day. The other thing I want to talk about again on my wife, hourly pricing. you know, if I call a typical salon, I say, how much are your haircuts? They're going to tell me $40 and up. I'm going to say, how much are your highlights? They're going to, well, they start at $85. This is not transparent. If you went to Nordstrom's and you said, I want this pair of shoes, well, they start at 40, but if you want both of them, they're 93.
Yeah.
You would have an uproar. So I'm just saying hourly pricing on things like corrective color, anything that takes more than 2 to 3 hours.
3 hours or more.
Somebody coming in with black hair wants to be blonde, crazy rainbow color, anything you imagine could be extensions. So Mary has a price hourly. And the way we formulate it is taking her haircut price, where she actually makes the most money, and multiply it by another 20 to 30% based on overhead. But let's just say 20. Let's say Mary was $100. Her hourly rate would be 120. Tina calls up, wants to be a platinum blonde. It's going to take 3 hours. What's so good about that, Tina, is I can use the whole color bar. I can use as many scoops of lightener. It's like an open bar at a party. It's fabulous. It's a lot of fun. So to me, that changes the game, and the client knows what it costs. So this year, Mary's goal is to go 100% hourly on every single service. And I'm telling you, it's a game changer. It's transparent, and more people in our company are doing it for those specialty items. But more importantly, I love that she's had such success with it. And now she's moving into that next level, because time is the most important thing. California made a big change a few years ago. And again, I'm the Silver Linings Playbook. They took away commission, said it's illegal. And the whole world's still working on commission. Let me tell you the flaw of commission. It doesn't bring in time. It says you brought in 1,000, I give you 50% of 1,000, that's what you make. Even if you brought in that 1,000, Tina, and it took you 60 hours, you boil that backwards to what you were actually making hourly, you'd be better off at McDonald's at $22 an hour. So because we pay hourly, we're breaking the bubble of commission. We just did the 13-week analysis on numbers. At least 4 or 5 of my top performers are getting raises, and they're getting hourly raises, which helps you get a better mortgage, helps you get a better car. So it's changing their financial relationship, where commission is a no-no. People don't give you big loans on commission because it's not guaranteed and it's not transparent. So as much as we hated at the time, I had to go tell my team, we are taking away commission, we're going hourly. Now it's 6.5 a dozen. Whatever I would pay you in a percentage, I'm working it through your revenue to your hours. Somebody bringing in $1,000 a week in 10 hours or 20 hours is going to different rate of pay. We're not all created equal. So I think this to me is a game changer. And what I hope to see happen in the evolution of our company, no longer will people be thinking about the 45% I got, or the 50% I got, or the 60% I got. That's the cost of doing business. I don't run home with that or take it to the casino. What it'll start to get you triggered on is I performed great last 13 weeks. I get to move up $5, $10. So they won't think anymore of what I'm getting, just what they got to do to get another higher raise. And we're so happy right now that we've got so many people on board that are seeing the benefits. And one story I want to tell, because I'm really hot on price increases. I've got a guy there, Tony, Mary mentioned him, 30 years. We looked at his indicators, he's been doing good, but
he was notorious for not increasing anything, ever. He just would, double booking, and just, he had a lady that was getting still a $25 haircut. I'm like, are you crazy?
Wow.
So what was his price when we looked at him?
So we did do we did not raise prices during COVID, but we did go through and look at everyone's pricing, what they charge for people. And we just enforced that they had to honor the menu. So
we leveled up.
Yes, we leveled up. So some, like, for instance, most of my guests, I would say I only had one guest I had to talk to and tell her, like, hey, I do your haircut for this price. I have to increase you to my haircut price of $125. And she was okay with it. Many of my other stylists, it was a conversation with more than half of their guests. And we didn't know it because there was so much volume in the business before COVID. The numbers were big, but we weren't seeing the individual pricing that was happening. So we leveled up, we did all that conversation. So he was at $100, $105 for his haircut price. And so we did just raise him to $125 based on his indicators, and sent the letter out, and he is doing good with it. He's honoring it.
So we sent the letter out saying Tony has earned a promotion. Now, first of all, his clients started texting him to congratulate him. Talk about tricking people into doing the things. Then he gets the price, and we're in a group meeting with our team, and we bring up this story, and I swear he starts crying, and he's not known for his crying. He said he didn't think he was worth it. See, I mentioned this quite a lot. Mentorship is believing in people till they believe in themselves. And even a guy who's been with me 30 years didn't believe in himself to go up to 120. He's very entertaining. He's super fun. He cuts awesome hair. You deserved it. And just to see his reaction and seeing my team's reaction to his emotion, because he's not known for that, it's just, that's the power of what you can do in creating magic as an owner of people and helping inspire them to do better. And again, at any level experience, for oftentimes we talk about, young future pros that are making it, and that's beautiful. But what are we doing for the other parts of the salon team? Because you got to reward everybody in certain ways. And I'm just saying, if they've earned it, they're going to get it. If your client earned a raise, you'd be congratulating her. Every year, every employee in the world gets a raise, whether it's the rate of inflation or whatever it is. And for some reason, our industry has always been behind the 8 ball. So it's time to level up in ways. And one thing I want to make sure I'm communicating, if your indicators say you've got 30% traffic or 30% reputation, putting a raise on your books may not be the best idea, because the first thing I'm going to look about, you should be in the 60s, 70s, or 80s for me to give you a right to give. Because if you lose 1 or 2, you'll still be okay. And then the people coming in with a new price are going to make up for it and some. But when some people hear the whole conversation, I'm going to charge more. I had a young future professional model for me, so I kind of followed her career. She came out of school, maybe Costa Mesa, and she sent me over her price list, and it was bigger than Mary's. And I don't think the person made it in the industry, because you price too high, you're going to eliminate 80% of the world, maybe 90%. When I walk up to you and say I'm a $200 hair cutter, chances are you're going to laugh at me and say, no, I don't think so. I once did a guest of mine who kind of ran the building I was in, and he used to go to a barber and he used to pay $3. So he come in to me as my first client in Vegas. I charged him $100. And then I finished up. He says, do I get to comb it? He said $100 and I don't even get to comb it. So when he went to his $3 barber, he would comb his own hair. I wouldn't let him do that. It's just amazing what you do. So I'm just saying, these younger prices can make a difference. And I would just say, this is something we have to pay attention. You've got to earn the right, whether it's with the clientele, with the demand on your books, with the way that you're rebooking people, with the demand of new clients requesting you. These are all data points I look at. I don't just give you a raise because I like you. It's got to come from an honest day's work. And when you get it, you deserve it. And trust me, you deserve it, and go to the next level. And I'm just saying, it's not a free for all that everybody listening to this going, Robert Cromeans told me to increase your prices. But for the other half of the world, if somebody asks you why you increase your price, just tell them Robert Cromeans told you to. You would listen to your doctor, listen to your coach. I just think sometimes people need a push. I'm in Europe dealing with salon owners that haven't raised their price in 16 years. And their daughter or son works for them. And they're asking the question, how do you get somebody to increase the price with it? And I'm like, oh my God. And I go, it's her, isn't it? And she goes, yeah, it's my mom. We get so attached to people. We get so attached to our clients. But again, we got to realize that we've got to increase, because the cost of doing business is so, huge right now, that we got to take it into consideration. And in an ideal world, once we've caught up, every year we should just make an annual raise, just without, pick a date, pick your birthday, Tina, pick a date and say every June 16th, we are raising our prices 3, 4, 5% and in alignment. And everybody is used to this right now. The cost of eggs right now is tripled. Poultry stores are wiped out of everything dairy. I bought some steaks for Mary. I didn't even tell her how much they cost. The 2 steaks I bought to cook at home were over $100.
Wow.
No, they were good.
That much at the restaurant.
So I'm just saying, this is something the world is used to.
Yeah.
McDonald's is not the cheapest place to eat anymore. Go look at just the places that have increased. Home Depot are charging more for lumber, electricity and gas prices, not just the gas we drive our cars in, to heat your home, and everything has costs has went through the roof. What are we going to do to soften that? What are we going to do to unapologetically communicate that to our clients? Not using words like raise, price, or increase. Finding words like cost, new rates. I love that word, new rates. Proud to tell you we have new rates based on the economy. We're adjusting our rates, much better kind of word power. So I'm just saying, writing this beautiful letter, which I've got 6 or 7 examples of, that are showing people how to communicate. Now, ideally, it's verbally, which Mary felt very comfortable on. Sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a text.
I think it's all of it.
It's every single way. And being upfront with people goes back to that transparency. We all know the client that walks up to the desk and nearly falls over when they see the price. It's not a private conversation in your head. I'm going to do an overlay, a toner, and a treatment. This is something you've got to get used to as a professional, bringing it up, getting up front with it so people understand, so they don't have sticker shock. So price is something as an industry we got to get over. We got to build a bridge, get over it, and understand in our profession, this is what we do. And everywhere else I go, a profession, from my dentist to my doctor, you'll be so surprised how much it comes up. My dentist is quite upfront with it, whereas you go to a doctor, you're never going to hear anything about price. I go see Brian, he's going to tell me he's $250 an hour. And it's going to take me 100 hours to work on your case, Robert. But I'm just saying, the reality of that is so transparent. It's so transparent. Think of the guest and everything we're doing. And if you get into that mentality of thinking of what the customer wants, these are all the visions we have for the future that we're living through right now.
Love it. Love it. Mary, what's your hourly rate?
It's $150 an hour.
Okay.
My haircut price is $125 and then 20% over that. And we have that figured out for every element level.
Perfect. I love it. This is incredible. Oh my gosh. I have so many notes. I have so many more things I want to talk to you about. Of course, we're at the end, but the last thing that I want to ask both of you, and you hit the nail on the head, Robert, you said, believe in people until they believe in themselves. And I believe that is our job as a leader, as an owner of a business, and you cannot lose sight of that. We have that incredible, I call it a sacred responsibility to our people. And how do you stay in that element for yourself to keep that strong leadership, and also kind of adding to that, how do you invest in yourself to always come up with this incredible verbiage and language and thoughts? Like, who do you study, and who do you go to for your for your ideas as a leader as well too? So Mary, we'll start with you and we'll end with you, Robert.
Well, I mean, I have this guy in my life, so it's every day, all day. And it's always a surprise with, like, it's hard to not be inspired by him. I mean, he is always changing dialogue, coming up with new stuff. And, we do bring work home. Like, we work 7 days a week. We talk about it more often than not. And we're always trying to figure out new things. So that for me makes it very easy to, be inspired, learn new dialogue, learn new things. And I mean, I enjoy it. So every day in the salon, even sometimes I hear new things from my team members and the team that I'm surrounded by, and they can be younger too. They could be younger, meaning young in the industry, right? Yeah. It doesn't always have to be somebody with more experience than me to learn from them. So I do think that Robert has always had that, where saying that the youth is the batteries. And I used to be the youngest person on the team. And now we have 19-year-olds that are like, oh, I'm turning 20 this week. But they're the ones that are coming up with stuff, and they're the ones that are teaching me what the dialogue is now and how people are talking to each other. And so I feel very inspired by that. And I don't feel like I'm very deep in the way of people are like, oh, well, I walk through nature and I saw the inspiration on a leaf. I don't really see that. I mean, I see pretty colors and I see all of that stuff, but it really is just sometimes at a restaurant, remember we were at, oh gosh, where the heck was I? We got taken to a restaurant doing one of the Together tours. And I think I might not have been with you. You might not have been with me. I was by myself. I'm sorry. So I was with the Paul McGill team, and they took us to a steakhouse, and this gentleman who was a waiter, he was probably like less than 25 years old. His dialogue and the way he spoke and the way he talked about the dishes and the experience we were going to have, we were just like, whatever you say, order it all. You're great. Like, finding that there, we were like taking notes on our phones because this guy's dialogue was unbelievable. And then it got me thinking, I'm like, what do they do to train him to get to this? Like, he's a waiter, you know what I mean? Like, how do you get this gentleman who is not the owner of the restaurant? He's not the chef of the restaurant. He is a waiter serving people, which is very comparable to what we're doing. We're serving people, and his dialogue was magical. So, it's out there everywhere, and it's not always in the, the most unique places. Sometimes it's right in front of our faces every day. So
I would say, I used to be very inspired by an artist called Salvador Dali, and watching an interview, he talked about his little mustache, which is kind of memorable. He said they were antennas to see things in life other people didn't see. Yeah. So for me, when I'm out and about and I'm at a billboard, in fact, when I talk about rates, I got that from a mobile phone commercial. Mm-hmm. They didn't say another new price. They said different rates. And I'm just saying, so I'm always on the hunt for stuff. So with the internet, I would just say, if you take an idea from one person, you're absolutely stealing. You take from many, it's called research. So if you're looking to turn your salon into a hybrid salon, I would say research some of those ones I mentioned at the top of the show. They will show you a little bit what they're doing in that competitive market. For me, if I'm doing a collection, I don't know if you've seen my little video where I did my hand as Thing from Wednesday Addams.
I did. It's great.
It's getting a little traction. People are blown away, but obviously I seen the show first and then said, well, okay, that didn't just come to me in a dream. I'm like, I see the show. I know how I could do that. And I got to do it quick before somebody else thinks about it. So I'm constantly researching different speakers in the industry, people I value. Steph Fox, I think you may know her. She talks about, what's the other one we love?
Nina Tulio?
Yeah, Nina's good. So I'm
great.
watching and listening to every single person that's in the industry that should have a microphone, even down to people I don't agree with. So to me, I want to hear every side of it. You can't just have one-sided opinions. You got to hear both sides. So as you go in through it, I'm just saying research is the key. If you want to use Salon Scale, research into it. If you want to change your system, charge more, research what are other salons doing in your neighborhood. Research a little bit will give you the confidence to make these big owner decisions, but not just because I told you or Tina told you, maybe because Mary told you, because what she tells you is absolutely the truth. But to me, I'm so inspired, and I've been inspired for the 40 years I've been in the industry, but more so today because I'm getting more visibility to the things that are magical out there, from great hair, great color, even as an artist, seeing things. And, you know, I'm a showman, so I'm always looking for show aspects. What can I do to an audience that they've never seen before? And with something like the internet, which is such a giving pleasure, but you've got to discipline yourself, not just to get crazy TikTok dances, put a little study into it, keywords. And again, as I mentioned a little bit ago, I'm in love with AI because it's going to do some of the things. Maybe you're not very wordy. Write down your little menu, find an AI app, and then put in these words and watch what it does. It'll tell you, ask me, Tina, which tone? Do you want it to be witty, professional, clever, friendly? And then I do 3 or 4 versions and every one is dynamic. You know what I did the other day? This is unbelievable. I typed in, give me 3 ways in which I could build my hair salon.
Wow.
Build clients or
build clients.
Build clients, yeah.
Yeah.
And it gave me 3 remarkable answers.
Wow.
It's a game changer. Get into technology, get into discovery. And just to say, you know, I am 60 years old. I am just as passionate about hair as I've ever been. I would just say that a lot of the research that I do is coming from having this beautiful thing called an iPhone. And every day I'm discovering new ways to communicate. And I think it's just a magical place. So, you know, we've got more to do. And I just suggest to you, we should do a chapter 2. You know, we'd be delighted to do that because, you know, there's so many lanes we could go into, like this whole price increase, because I've got maybe a whole seminar just on how to do it in different variants of doing it. You know, like, Tina, I'm going to increase your price of color because the cost of doing business right up, but your haircut stays the same. And 6 months later, I'm going to bring up your haircut and say, but don't worry, Tina, your color's the same. There's so many ways at which you can approach it. And I think it's a definite thing that people need right now in the industry. And I think that it's happening again worldwide. And that sometimes those are the best ways you can learn, because it's not just something unique to the States. In Germany and Zurich's the wealthiest country in the world. This is the main concern they have, is the cost of doing business and how they speculate and get their prices up in range that help them still be profitable. Because if you don't, it comes out of your pocket. It comes out of your bottom line. And that's the tragedy of it. Many of you could be working harder than ever before and making less from it because you didn't level up the reality of what's necessary, because we're a business. We're in the business of hair. It's not the business of friendship. It's the, you know, we are business people. I love when Anthony said, we don't own salons, we own businesses. And one of my favorite little flips on words lately, we don't have a hair salon, we have a care salon. We are caring for your scalp, your hair, and all the things. It shifts, and that's why I love words so much, because when you paint a new word, people see things differently. And I think that's the key on being a wordsmith. That's what Stephen called me last week. He said, you're a wordsmith. I've only been pretending to be a hairdresser. I'm a mediocre hairdresser, but I got some good word power, and I know how to create an experience, whether that's in my chair or on a stage. And I think these are key things. You've got to be kind of fun and interested. You got to have something to give. And I think everybody deserves that, whatever way you want to build a business. But, you know, we are in the business together, and it's never a dull moment. And we, you know, we could have frustrating days, When I have a bad day and I'm not seeing what I want to see from the team, I just go mute. I'm never going to bring it up while it's happening. I used to work
Yeah.
for a boss, and every time they would say, close the cupboards or do stuff on the site. And I'm sure that's a great way to coach. But when you've got emotion, a little disappointed in the team, that's the last time you want to talk to them. So I'll let that go. I'll go home. I'll be quiet. I'll work on it in my head going, oh my God, that was devastating. That was the worst I've ever seen. And then I recover, my attitude changes, and then I know how to deal with it in a positive reaction. So don't let the drama of the day bring you down and affect the way you communicate, because if you're down and you're upset and anything else, just like they are, let it simmer, let it cool down, and then you'll come up with a solution that is right. And then when you address it, you can do it with a smile on your face, with no emotion of hurt or hate. They're not trying to disappoint you. And all they need is leadership and good examples of what they can do. And we're nudging our team every single day to do that. And I think we're doing quite well at it. So it's a journey, and it's still very fulfilling, so we're going to keep doing it, I think. unless we get flooded out. We've had rain here for weeks and weeks.
I know, I saw that. Stay
Nice.
dry, people.
Yeah, my swimming pool is overflowing. So
That's
Mary's going to have to go drain it out with a pot, but we'll get there. But it's one of those things that we go through. And again, it's a kind of reminder. So we've just been cozying up in the rain.
Yeah.
We had onesies on yesterday. We were actually going to wear them for you because we match, but we thought we better dress up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mary's like, nope.
I know.
Thank
I was like,
you.
I feel like I gave up wearing my onesie, but anyway, yes. Thank you for having
Amazing.
us.
Thank
This
you
was
for
such a
your
great
time. I love you both so much. Thank you. I'm so glad you're in my life. I can't wait for my staff to listen to this too. Take care, everyone.
Enjoy the week.
Bye-bye.